Welcome to another RaiderPower.com mailbag. I'm Jarrett Johnson, and once again, I'm joined by senior writer Joe Yeager. Joe, how we doing today?
Well, ask me in about 15-20 minutes time. We got some very, very difficult questions to deal with here. So
I can't believe you think it's only going to take 15 or 20 minutes to get through this.
We got a time limit, right?
Well, we'll see what we could do here. We do have a bunch of great questions. We're going to start off with a off-the-wall question from JTech D. He has three of them. Joe, Ginger or Marianne?
Well, this is a no-brainer for me. I've been a Marianne guy ever since I was about 5 years old. So, yeah.
Wow. I'm going to go with Ginger.
Surprise.
Bailey or Jennifer?
He's lost me on this one. Let's go with something a little bit more my speed. Betty Rubble or Wilma Flintstone. I think Betty is pretty darn cute, but I like Wilma's personality. She's got a great voice, so I'm going to go with Wilma. And who he's talking about, I have no idea.
I didn't either. I had to look it up, but I'm going with Wilma as well, since we're going Flintstones. But I guess a little more serious question. John Galt, right? John Galt for TET wants to know basically about Mickey Mitchell, Mike Mitchell's younger brother. Big time 4-star, one of the best power forwards of the 2015 class in the country. He's committed to Ohio State. Of course, there's some talk now that he may be joining his older brother Mike, and also McKinley Mitchell, a 2016 running back, the younger one. And then they have another one who's in junior high. But McKinley has talked a lot to us and Scout about how much he likes Texas Tech. He visited with Mike when he actually made it official and signed. So that's two. It's kind of sandwiching Mikey there, two Mitchell brothers. The reports right after Mike signed was that Mikey, or Mickey, excuse me, I can't keep all these M's. Mickey was still solid with Ohio State, but obviously before Mike signed, Tech had no shot with Mickey, and now they have a legitimate shot. I mean, they're going to get be granted an audience. They're going to get to be able to make their pitch, and yes, definitely they have a shot of landing Mickey Mitchell. PH Tech wants to know what your opinion is of Ed O'Bannon versus the NCAA. All I'm going to say is, for me, it just means that I can't play our new NCAA football anymore. But for you, Joe, what's your opinion on this?
Good. I mean, let's talk about tough questions. I mean, it doesn't get any tougher than this, because this is an extremely complex legal situation, and I mean, unless there's probably not a sports writer on the planet who has this thing completely figured out, and I'm not going to claim to either. But basically, kind of what I've boiled it all down to is sort of one key aspect that could really determine things, and that is a simple document that all athletes sign when they are becoming eligible. It's basically a waiver for rights of publicity that the university will have in all events, NCAA events. And basically the university will have rights for this player's image and name and so forth and so on. And what it kind of comes down to, it seems like to me, is how closely the judge reads this document. And how does she interpret it very loosely, and as a document that really does grant wide privileges for the university over those rights, or does she regard it as something that is very narrow and maybe doesn't grant those rights, and is maybe something that is called an adhesion contract, which basically means a contract that is rendered under duress or without knowledge, through ignorance or so forth and so on. And how she looks at that document could very well determine, because if she views it very widely, then that's bad for the plaintiffs. You know, those rights are granted, and the player did this under his own free will. So that is very, very good for the NCAA. If reads it narrowly, on the other hand, then suddenly the plaintiff has a very, very good shot. And there's just one other thing to take into consideration here. Even though there could be some legitimate infringement upon antitrust and free trade going on here, it kind of depends upon how egregious that really is, and how the judge looks at college football and college athletics in general. There are a lot of people out there who look at college athletics as a wonderful thing and something that must be preserved.
What do you think? I want to ask, what do you think? Do you think collegiate athletes should be paid or not?
You know, my stance has always been no. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, scholarship, room, board, and all these things, and the ability to market yourself is payment enough. But how this thing goes, it's a huge deal, and it could really, really upset the entire apple cart of college athletics on down the line. The ramifications are incredible.
Great question. Thanks for having having Joe tackle that. Next one, West Texas Raider 3. Does Techland Tyrone Johnson? If you go to all the different recruiting services, I mean, he ranks anywhere from the top wide receiver in the country to, top 5 or 6. Bottom line is the guy's a stud. He's a blue chip wide receiver, and he has consistently, with us, with Scout, listed Texas Tech as his top school. If you cut through all of it, that's what he says. He loves Texas Tech. Now, of course, being from Louisiana, from New Orleans, from a big-time high school program there, New Orleans Easton there, Louisiana is going to be heard from. So if you put a gun in my head based on repeated times, repeated interviews on video, in print, how he's mentioned Texas Tech is number 1, the Red Raiders, then yeah, I'm going to say Texas Tech does land him. But, of course, I'm going to hedge my bet. I don't have a gun to my head right now and say, yeah, Louisiana's going to be heard from, and it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me if he went to LSU either. And let's see here. Question from Tornado Watch. He wants to know, Joe, let you take first shot at this. Do you think Mahomes is going to try and do what Marquez did and Bradley Marquez did as far as playing football for Tech, but then still doing minor league baseball, or do you think he's going to play both football and baseball for Texas Tech?
Well, I mean, you would think that the momentum would be on the side of the Tech baseball program. Yeah. I mean, this is just such a huge thing and really so unexpected. And when you look at where the program was and how quickly it's risen so far, I mean, that's got to make an impression on anybody, and I certainly would think it would make an impression on Mahomes. And I think the momentum has been very much in favor of him actually trying to go 2 sports here at Tech.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think even before Tech swept College of Charleston and went to the World Series, that it was basically where he was drafted that he decided that he was going to play both. But he hadn't told me that, but that's just my opinion. I think he's going to play both football and baseball at Texas Tech. Okay, we have a series of questions from Rawls Landman. One of them is, why is the football stadium named Jones Stadium, and why is the baseball field named Dan Law Field? And you know what? I didn't know when you asked me that. I had a general idea, but I didn't know the whole background story. So I did a little bit of research, and as far as the Jones, I saw an article in the Avalanche Journal from 2000 saying, it was named after Clifford B. Jones, who was a member of the board from the beginning of Texas Tech, its inception. He was their 3rd president, Tech's 3rd president. He donated $100,000 in 1947 towards building the stadium and helping basically to try and ensure the inclusion of Texas Tech into the Southwest Conference. That's just some of the things. A couple other interesting facts I saw just when looking him up was that he was actually was accepted into Yale but turned it down to stay to go to work, go into business. But and then when he was a president, or when he went to work for Tech, he didn't have a college degree. So he was actually Tech's 3rd president, but didn't have a college degree. I thought that was pretty interesting.
For all of us.
Right. And then the Law is named after Dan Law. I'm sure a lot of y'all know this as well. But he played football and baseball in the mid-'50s. And, there was a 25-year gap where, wasn't baseball at Tech, and he played and I found this out mostly on Texas Tech's athletics site and a couple other places. But he played an integral role in bringing the program back to Tech, and of course, major renovations in 1988 to the Law. The big thing being there is the lights. They had their first night game in 1988, so it became Dan Law Field, or the Law, as we like to call it. Another question from Rawls Landman is, and I'm gonna let you tackle this because I really could only be in for part of this. You being the senior rider, as I like to point out, the senior rider, you can more accurately answer this question. He wants to know what your top offensive and defensive players are from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and then the last 5 years or 4 years.
Dropping a load on me here. Yeah, well, I've got to have the list for this. I'm afraid I can't do this off the top of my head. So, 1960s offense, Donnie Anderson. Defense, E.J. Holland, and I got to go with E.J. because he played in 1960. That was his senior year. So technically, he's played in the 60s. All right, so don't give me any grief. 70s. Quarterback Rodney Allison on offense, who still, even despite Graham Harrell, may be the best quarterback ever to play at Tech.
Really good guy, too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're glad to still have him around with the program. Yep. And a guy who played on the same team on defense, Thomas Howard, linebacker out of Lubbock Estacado, or I think it was Lubbock Dunbar, actually. Great player. Played with the Kansas City Chiefs. Had a son, Thomas Howard, who played at UTEP and sadly was killed in a car accident back in 2012, I think, in Oakland. The 80s, I'm going to take a flyer on the offensive guy and go with fullback Irvin Ferris. This was a guy that was a backfield mate of James Gray. Didn't get a lot of publicity or anything with James Gray doing his thing back there, but they were high school teammates at Fort Worth Temple Tech, and Irvin Ferris was just the best blocking fullback I've ever seen at Tech, and hands like a wide receiver. I kid thee not, that guy could catch anything. It was in the Dallas Cowboys camp as a free agent and was actually making big waves, but then he ran afoul of Jimmy Johnson, and Johnson kicked him out of camp.
There you go.
So who knows? Defense, Gabe Rivera, senior sack, obvious. 90s offense, I'm going to go with Bam Morris, great running back who, if he hadn't had problems with the weed and all that stuff, no telling what he would have done in the NFL. Defense, another complete obvious, Zach Thomas. In the aughts, I started to write down Michael Crabtree, and then I remembered a guy named Wes Welker. So I've got to go with Wes there. I mean, he's a future NFL Hall of Famer. And then on defense, Dwayne Slay, an absolutely dominant college player. Just wasn't fast enough for the next level, but man, he could change a game.
Great.
And then for this decade up to the present, offense, another pretty obvious one, Jason Morrow, greatest tight end in school history. And I'm going to go with the guy presently on the squad on defense, Pete Robertson, because I'm just waiting for that guy to really explode. And then let's hope that this is the year, because I think he's got the potential to just really be something special.
Started with kind of an off-the-wall one. We're going to end with another one. Last meal, you only have 4 choices. This last meal, you have 4 choices. This is also from Rawls. Whataburger, Dairy Queen, Sonic, or Texas Burger? What are you going with, Joe? For me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. This guy is a guy after my own heart, this Rawls guy. I mean, food and restaurants, you got to send something like this in every time.
Right.
Well, hey, I love the Sonic popcorn chicken and the lemon cream slushies. I really dig that stuff. But, hey, I got to go with Whataburger, because I got to have something really satisfying that just makes me say, oh, yeah, on that last meal. So give me 2. Not 1, but 2 double meat Whataburgers with cheese and bacon, a large order of fries, and a big chocolate malt.
Yeah, since this is the end, I'm definitely going Whataburger, easy, of course. And I'm going, like you said, double meat with cheese, mayo, and ketchup. That's it.
No bacon?
No bacon. Just get some. I love bacon, but with this, I don't want to mess with it. Large fry, and of course, the large Dr. Pepper. And that's going to do it. Hey, another great week of questions. Really appreciate it. Joe, thanks again for joining me. See y'all next week.